Does your diesel truck refuse to start on a freezing cold morning? Or does it crank forever before finally sputtering to life? You might have a P2607 diagnostic trouble code, which means intake air heater B circuit low. Diesel engines operate differently than gas engines. They don't have spark plugs. Instead, they rely on extreme cylinder compression to heat the air enough to ignite the fuel. However, when the engine block is ice cold in the winter, the compression alone often isn't enough to start the combustion process. To solve this, manufacturers install an intake air heater, which is essentially a massive, high-amperage heating grid located right in the intake manifold. When you turn the key to the on position in cold weather, this heater turns on to preheat the air rushing into the cylinders. The powertrain control module monitors the electrical circuit for this heater, designated as Circuit B. If the computer detects that the voltage in this specific circuit is abnormally low, it immediately sets this code. The symptoms of a failing intake air heater are very obvious, especially in the winter. Your engine will either refuse to start entirely, or it will require an incredibly long cranking time, which is very hard on your starter motor and batteries. Once it finally does start, it will likely idle very roughly, stumble, and puff white smoke until the engine block warms up. The most common cause for this code is a burnout heater element relay. Because this heater draws a massive amount of electrical current, the heavy-duty relays that control it often fail over time. Other frequent causes include a completely dead heater grid element, severely corroded electrical connections at the heater itself, a failing intake air temperature sensor, or heavily damaged, thick-gauge wiring. To start fixing this yourself, the first step is a careful visual inspection under the hood. Locate the massive intake air heater grid bolted to the intake manifold. Closely inspect the heavy-duty electrical cables bolting to it. Because of the high amperage, these connections can actually melt or corrode heavily. Never touch the heater element itself while the key is on, as it gets hot enough to cause severe burns. Next, locate the intake air heater relay, which is usually a large solenoid mounted on the firewall or near the battery. Check the connections there for corrosion. If the connections look solid, you will need a digital multimeter to verify that the relay is actually sending battery voltage to the heater grid when you first turn the key on. Because a diesel that won't start in the cold is essentially a giant paperweight, this is a high priority repair for the winter months. If the massive cables look good and you are not comfortable testing high amperage diesel electrical circuits, you absolutely need to take your truck to a certified diesel mechanic. They can safely test the heavy relays, verify the computer commands, and get your intake heater working again so your truck fires right up on the coldest mornings. Don't let a bad relay leave you stranded in the snow.